Hello, 10-minute book talk world. Katherine Reay here with my hosts, Rachel Linden and Marie Bostwick. And we are so happy to be with you on another Wednesday and sharing with you Eliza Knight. She has just released Starring Adele Astaire, and we're going to talk about this novel today. And Eliza, I'm so glad you have it. Hold it up again, because I'm on the road and I don't have it with me. Fantastic cover.
I had seen the cover, but I forgot how charming it is.
It's so charming. So anyway, we are so excited to have her here and to share a little bit about this novel with us. So Eliza, tell us a little about Starring Adele Astaire.
Well, first of all, thank you all for having me here. I'm really excited to be with you today. And just a quick note on the cover, this actually is Adele Astaire and her brother Fred on the cover. So I love that they put a real picture on there.
Oh, I would not have known that.
I know, it's a surprise for everyone usually. Amazing. So the book is basically a glitz and glam story, but it also covers a lot of emotional detail. And takes part some really formative years of Adele Astaire's dancing life, from when she became a star through her stardom and then sort of her step away from the limelight. But the reason that I wanted to focus on her is because her brother gets so much attention, and that's why Starring Adele Astaire, it's her show basically. And juxtaposed to Adele's story is a fictional dancer who's got a sort of rags to riches dream life and becomes friends with Adele, and we kind of get to see a little bit more of Adele's inner life through Violet's eyes.
Fantastic.
Really good. Really good. So I'm curious, how did you find Adele? How did you come across this story and become interested in her?
So I was doing research for my other book called The Mayfair Bookshop, and I was reading letters of Nancy Mitford to her sisters. And in one of the letters, she said she had had lunch with this woman named Deli, and that Deli is hysterical, and Deli thought all of the free love amongst the bright young things was wonderful. And I thought, well, this person sounds really interesting. And I thought I knew all of Nancy Mitford's friends, having done so much research on her for that book. And I didn't know who Deli was. So I went down to the little asterisk and it said Adele Astaire, sister to Fred Astaire. And my first thought was, I did not even know that Fred Astaire had a sister. And also, what is she doing in London having lunch with an aristocrat? Like, that is crazy. So I basically jumped down the rabbit hole for like 3 days straight and stopped working on my other book to figure out who she was and come up with a story. And I sent it to my agent. She was like, that sounds great, but also finish your other book.
Right, exactly. Focus.
Squirrel.
Yeah, exactly.
I did not know. I have never heard of Adele Astaire either. So
neither did I.
I love it.
Most people that I talked to had no idea. And it's hilarious because she was, at the time they were dance partners, she was his original dance partner from the time they were children to their mid-30s. And she was more famous than he was during that time period, which is crazy. You know, reviews would say things like, Adele dances like a lilac flame, and her brother Fred, he's okay, which is really funny, considering that he became like this world famous household name of a dancer, and people don't really remember who she was. So
my goodness, that is fascinating. Okay, so you had this amazing and real life character, Adele, and then you've given her a fictional best friend in Violet, this rags to riches story. Why did you invent Violet?
So one of the things that I find interesting when I'm writing historical fiction is that I want to get really inside of a character's head and see them more in like a relationship with another person, where you can see them for more of a real person than they are when you're in their own head, I guess is a good way of saying it. So Violet was a medium to get to Adele from that perspective, but she was also used in a way that I hate saying used because she does get used in the book as well, but I used her as a medium in the story to show what happened to a lot of dancers during that era, and actually still happens to performers today who don't necessarily have someone there to protect them. So Adele had her brother with her on stage to kind of shoo away any nasty managers or directors who might want to take advantage of her, and Violet did not have that. So I wanted to show that sort of seedier side of the show business world. And then I also wanted to show a struggle from, somewhat poorer means to a rise in fame and the determination that it takes to get there, because I think a lot of people, you know, may not necessarily have that same story, but they will struggle from being in one part of their life and trying to get to what seems like an insurmountable goal. And it is possible. So I wanted to touch on that.
Yeah.
Oh,
I love how that really does have relevancy for life journeys, no matter in
Yeah.
which age you live. I mean, that is absolutely true. So your book covers so much history, 20th century, you know, really a dynamic, rich period from the 20s into World War II. And you have been in this period before. So is there anything new that you found? Anything that surprised you that, you know, came out on the page that hadn't been discovered in the Mitford book, the Mayfair Shop?
So one thing I did want to do was skip the Depression, and my editor did not let me do that. So there is a chapter or two on the Depression.
Big bandwidth of history there.
So I had to learn a lot about like Depression in New York. And I found out a couple of really interesting things. One is that there was a casino in Central Park. I had no idea. That's crazy. So that was an interesting find. And then the other thing I found out during the time was that Fred and Adele really wanted to buy a Rolls Royce, but they didn't want to use their own money to do it. So they got a gig with a nightclub. After performing all day long on stage, they were then dancing in a nightclub for money to buy a Rolls Royce, which they did end up doing. But just funny stuff like that. I don't think there was really anything necessarily new about history that I didn't know before, but just little tiny stories like that I hadn't any idea, especially like the whole casino thing in Central Park. I never would have thought that.
Yeah.
And it's just little things that make it come to life, which is
Yeah.
extraordinary. Okay, I've got one last question for you. What do you hope readers will walk away with from this story? Like, you know, that little takeaway.
Yeah, I love that question. And I kind of touched on that a little bit earlier, but my main, one of the main themes of the book anyway, is to follow your dreams. And I think Adele and Violet both did that. And I think it's just really important in real life to follow our dreams. I think a lot of times people say, oh, well, you can't do it, or it's gonna be harder. Even we say that to ourselves, you know, especially if you have a family or other obligations, you think, well, I shouldn't waste time trying to do this other thing. I've got things that are real important right here, but I think we only get this one life, and we should, you know, as long as it's not an illegal activity, we should do things that we really want.
I love that. Yeah.
Let's hem those in.
As long as you're not going to be arrested.
Well, or injure.
Good
or
advice
injure
for our
other
children.
people. Yes. Yes.
Oh, I love that.
Oh, okay. So Eliza, we end every interview with one question, and it is, what is bringing you joy today?
Well, besides you ladies making me laugh, that's definitely bringing me joy. I would say it's my snoring dogs that are always lying right here beside me. You can't hear them, thank goodness, but they are loud and they're adorable and soft.
I have to know, I love dogs. What kind of dogs do you have?
I have two. One is a Newfoundland, and she's not really little. She's 160
she's a
pounds.
No, they're huge.
big girl.
She's a big girl.
I
And then
love
the other one is a half Newfoundland, half Lab. So she's also a big girl, but they're just the sweetest things.
Oh, that's so fabulous.
darling. Oh, I
So
love it.
fabulous. Okay, so
Big-
Eliza, hold up your book again, please. I want everyone to see Adele and Fred.
Beautiful.
Amazing. So everyone, this is Starring Adele Astaire. And thank you, Eliza, for being with us today. We have so enjoyed this, and you have made us smile and laugh today too, which
Yay.
is such a good thing.
I'm
So
so
anyway,
glad. It's fun.
10-minute book talkers, we will be back next week with someone new, another book to share, and we appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Next time.
Bye.